while you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your tongue? What have you now occupied your tongue with? The remembrance of Allah. And what have you occupied it from? Ghibah, backbiting, filth, slander, and so on and so forth. People genuinely actually ask me and they say, brother, I've got a problem with my tongue. Help. I have an issue. I'm always talking about others. Do dhikr. Keep your tongue moist. لا يزال لسانك رطبا بذكر الله. A man came to the Messenger and he said, إن شرائع الإسلام قد كثر علي. There are too many obligations, right? It's become too much for me. Give me something that's going to help me. Some of us might be feeling like that. Wallahi, 16 hours, 17 hours, that's long. That's a burden for me. Believe it or not, guys, you know what the new trend is in the month of Ramadan? To not fast. That's become a trend. Oh, Allah, you know, it's long. Right? You'll be surprised how common this is actually becoming. Right? You want something to help you when it comes to your fasting? Do dhikr with your tongue. What did this man want when he came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Was he saying, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, allow it, to remove some of these obligations from me"? Was he saying that? No, give me something that's going to help me. So he said, keep your tongue moist of the remembrance of Allah, and that will give you strength in all of these other acts of worship. Right? You have dhikr, and you have the opposite of that, which is what? Music. Ibn al-Qayyim has a whole kitab called Ighathatul Lahfan fi Masayid al-Shaytan. He talks about the tricks and the traps of the shaitan. He has a section where he talks about music and brings the statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Al-ghina yumbitu an-nifaq fi al-qalb. What does ghina do? Music, it causes hypocrisy to grow inside of your heart. And then he mentions a whole load of reasons as to why that happens. Right? Or some of the consequences of that. You know one of the points that he mentions? He goes, those who listen to music, right, tend to be afflicted with another problem. You know what that is? Being lazy when it comes to the prayer. Being lazy when it comes to acts of worship. You're probably asking yourself, why am I struggling? Why do I walk to the prayer in such a lazy manner, right? I don't have that, eagerness as I may have had once upon a time. Music, haram, does that to an individual. And the opposite of that actually gives you that physical strength. And Allah tells us this in the Quran, quoting Hud. وَيَا قَوْمِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ وَيَا قَوْمِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا وَيَزِدْكُمْ قُوَّةً إِلَىٰ قُوَّتِكُمْ. He told his people, do istighfar, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. What will Allah do? He'll give you strength above strength. I'm talking about physical strength. Sometimes people say, oh, how is it that so-and-so is able to do so much? Ya akhi, first say, mashallah, don't give him your evil eye. And then secondly, it's dhikr billahi azza wa jal. He's remembering Allah azza wa jal much. It could be that you're driving, it could be that you're walking. Is it difficult to say astaghfirullah, 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 guys? So they are generally a lot better. Also, just as a side benefit, when Ibn al-Qayyim speaks about music, you know what he also says? He says, وَكَمْ مِنْ حُرَّةٍ صَارَتْ بِالْغِنَى مِنَ الْبَغَايَا. How many women has he come across, right? She was fine, but because of music, she became from amongst the prostitutes. That's what the music done to her. Is it far-fetched now when you have all this grime and this rhyme and R&B and whatever have you that glorify filth and evil? It makes it so beloved to you. You see yourself behaving a certain way, acting a certain way, carrying yourself in a certain manner. All of a sudden now you're dragging your trousers, showing whatever, while you're walking. Right? Music does that to the people, right? Hypocrisy starts growing inside of your heart, brothers and sisters. And the dhikr, you have that on the opposite side. Right?
I think nowadays music is probably one of the easiest means to lose your moral sense. Music is audio pornography today. That's what it is. It's explicit, it's shameless, it's vulgar, it takes your sense of humanity away from you, it makes you look at women as objects worse than objects, worse than animals. Just ask, and these people are talking about women like they're talking about, an animal, really. It objectifies women, and especially I've noticed a lot of the brothers that I know of, Muslims, that are really into the hip-hop scene, and they're kind of doing the hifz of the song, right? They're memorizing the song, and they're really good at reciting it with perfect tajweed too, right? And so they do that, and it's just horrible language, horrible, horrific language. The only simple response I have to that, if you have any regard for the Book of Allah, that you really think it's from Allah, بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. Even the name, the mention, the word for something bad is terrible once you have faith. Even the mention of something terrible is horrible for you, it's harmful for you after you have faith. You have to have a clean tongue. You have to say what قُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولْ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Tell my slaves to say that which is the best. Say what is the best. Say good things from your mouth. So this is the first thing. When you say horrible things, and you say things that are in direct contradiction to the moral gauge Allah gifted us with, then obviously you're deviating from your natural fitrah, your predisposition to turn to Allah. And when you constantly listen to garbage like that, then you get deviated. And you don't find pleasure except in disobedience to Allah, and that's a sign of a sick heart. So one has to distance themselves from this. This is the first step. And I'll tell you, this is my personal measure. This is not a fatwa. It's my personal analysis. You don't have to take it. But if a person finds listening to the Qur'an annoying, after they've been listening to hip-hop and this and that for a long time, and as soon as somebody puts the Qur'an on in the car, you know what they say? Oh man, turn that off, man. I don't want to, I just want to talk. And they immediately, they get a little annoyed when they hear the Qur'an. That actually means the shayateen have taken over. And they're constantly making waswas out of this person. Because what do the shayateen hate the most? They hate the Qur'an. They hate the word of Allah. They flee, it hurts them. So you know what they do? Because this person has let the shayateen, the devils, into his heart, they start pinching at his heart when he hears Qur'an, and he says, I don't want to hear this. Right? It's like surgery, it's like pulling a tooth for this person. This happens. When you try to give this person a reminder from Allah's word, they get annoyed by it, like agitated, like an allergic reaction. Why? Because they've let the shayateen in. To let them out, the first thing you got to do is stop supplying them with fuel. This is fuel. This useless wasting of time, this is fuel for shaitan. They love that you waste your time. They love it. Because the one asset, the one piece of wealth Allah gave every human being is time. And what is music and TV and YouTube and Facebook and MySpace and like Twitter and whatever else? If you're spending hours and hours and hours on this stuff, what is it except destroying your time? It's taking that one asset away from you. Shaitan would love nothing more. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the strength to get away from these temptations. My advice that I keep going over, I can't get enough of giving this advice, find better friends. Find company that is not into these things and try to spend more time with them, and inshallah you'll wean yourself off of these habits. Bi-idhnillah.